Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Sebastian Gorka takes no prisoners when Jake Tapper tries to deflect the success of the Trump administration in bringing people to justice. Let's dive in.
With these rule changes, if the president or national security advisor no longer has to sign off on every strike like that, who now makes that call?
Well, with the concurrence of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, that has gone down to the combatant commanders. So this sheer insanity of the Biden administration, Jake Tapper. During Vietnam, we had the 6,000-mile screwdriver, and now we have the 10,000-mile joystick for the last 4 years, where every HVT high-value target had to go up to the White House, to the National Security Council, or even to the Commander-in-Chief. That is over. As the president posted in his viral social media post, if you threaten Americans or our partners and allies, we will find you and we will kill you. And that's exactly what we've done with more than 20 jihadis in just the last 53 days across the globe.
So last month, the Washington Post reported that the freeze on U.S. foreign assistance in Africa has, quote, threatened programs intended to counter al-Shabaab bomb makers, contain the spread of al-Qaeda across West Africa, and secure Islamic State prisoners in the Middle East, according to U.S. officials and aid workers, unquote. Are those cuts still in place? Are you concerned about them at all?
Is that the same Washington Post that propagated the Russia-Russia collusion hoax for the last 8 years?
Well, regardless of the Russia...
No, not regardless. You're quoting the Washington Post to me, which is as effective as posting for me or quoting to me any other pillar of the fake news industrial complex. I really couldn't care less what the Washington Post or the New York Times says, especially when it's anonymous government officials. If it's true, put your name to it. If it's not, shut up.
Well, let me ask you then, just in general, are any of these cuts to foreign aid or USAID, have any of them intruded on your counterterrorism priorities in any way?
The cuts are being made because of the ideological infection of AID and other parts of government under the administration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which in many cases actually supported individuals whose views were antithetical to the founding principles of our republic. As the senior director for counterterrorism, let me assure you, Jake Tapper, that nothing we have done in the last 53 days has undermined the counterterrorism capabilities of our allies or friends. On the contrary, just as we have unleashed the hounds of hell to kill jihadis, we have made our partners much, much more capable of doing the job they need to do. And I want to say right now, a thank you to Pakistan, who captured this individual in the border area thanks to an exquisite piece of intelligence that we provided after the president said so to our partners in Islamabad.
So that individual who was behind the Abbey Gate killing, that terrorist, has been arraigned in Northern Virginia. He is going to be tried in a criminal court. This is, I think, only, as far as I know, the second time that a foreign terrorist who killed Americans is being tried in a criminal court for killing Americans on the battlefield, I should be clear. The first was Spin Ghoul, who was tried and convicted during the first Trump administration. It doesn't happen very often. Is there going to be more of that? Is there a role of the U.S. criminal courts for trying foreign terrorists who have done such things?
Well, let me be clear. This piece of human filth has confessed not just to the murder of our 13 heroes, our warfighters of Abbey Gate, but hundreds and hundreds of civilians. 160 Afghans died on that day outside the Kabul airport in that atrocious withdrawal and surrender of that base and Afghanistan by the Biden administration, by Mark Milley, by that disgrace to the former uniform he wore, Lloyd Austin. And this man has confessed to us, to our FBI flight team and the Pakistanis, to his involvement as a planner in more than 30 terrorist events spanning from Kabul to Iran and Russia. Hundreds of civilians. And how they pay, how they will see justice, that depends upon where they are, what we share with our partners and allies, and the incredible work of our Tier 1 assets and our intelligence community.
Y'all, I don't know what it is, but when a Brit like this ends up speaking, for some reason I'm a little bit more inclined to tune in. Maybe it's the fact that it's considered a more highbrow accent. I'm not quite sure if that's it. Maybe it's the fact that they were once our lords and masters, even though we rose up in 1776 and have not looked back. So again, when a Brit like this speaks, you tend to want to listen to this. And you also need to read between the lines here, because there's something important that he got to before we even talk about the arraignment of the man that was behind the Abbey Gate, or the attack on the airport out in Kabul. When we were withdrawing so disturbingly poorly from Afghanistan. But I'll get to that in a minute. But there's a couple of things we got to address here. One, there's exchange apparently the way that we've been made when it comes to major drone strikes and counterterrorism strikes. And it used to be that we'd get the president and often the Secretary of State, we put him in the Situation Room or take him downstairs underneath the White House. I don't know why I'm saying we. I'm saying that people would take them down there, and then they would say either yes or no and authorize a strike, and they'd watch it happen in real time. That happened under W, that happened under Barack. Remember the Benghazi Gate scandal? Oh boy. Both Barack and Hillary were down there at the same time, and, let's just say Democrats don't really have a good track record at pulling people out of combat zones. And so Donald Trump is apparently no longer doing that, and that would happen under the Biden administration. And now Trump's saying, I don't have time for this. I'm going to leave it up to the people that I trust beneath me. So this tells me that there's been a difference in the chain of command and a difference in the way that we're treating our military. It's no longer a micromanaging approach. It's literally I give you the free reins, go and do your job. That tells me that we're finally turning a corner in the way we're dealing with American military operations. This is a fresh new face that is beyond warranted. We've been needing something like this for a while because the old way of doing things has clearly gotten stale. And of course, there's a reason that Gorka is out there talking about Lloyd Austin basically soiling the uniform. Well, that's because he did a terrible job. And the Biden administration just sat there and let it happen. Remember, every dumb administration from the Biden administration may or may not have come from Biden, but it was intentional by his staff, or Jill, who used to actually run the place. Boy. When it comes to running things, you can tell there's a new sheriff in town because we're changing the way that we're also dealing with our allies. We are enabling them to go after their problems and their issues while also serving American interests at the same time. Pakistan has historically been trying to play both sides, trying to work with the United States, trying to work with India, trying to work against India, sometimes trying to work against the United States. It's tough out there on the subcontinent. But they were instrumental in bringing to justice one of the people responsible for the Abbey Gate terrorist attack, and that was the attack on Bagram Airport. I'm sorry, I blanked on the name very briefly. But apparently it was one of the planners was a dude by the name of Sharifullah. And Sharifullah allegedly assisted in planning the Abbey Gate operation, including conducting surveillance on a route for the attacker near the Hamid Karzai International Airport, according to the complaint. He has been extradited to Alexandria and is awaiting civil trial, awaiting criminal trial here in the States. Sharifullah has also revealed he played a role in the suicide bombing targeting the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan in June 2016 that killed 10 embassy guards and wounded other soldiers guarding the Canadian embassy, according to the complaint. So, reminder that yes, we still have a Canadian interests at heart. And as a part of his service to ISIS-K, Sharifullah allegedly conducted surveillance so he could prepare the bomber and transport him to the target area in Kabul, according to the complaint. So thanks to a much better and streamlined team that can actually get a handle on our basic surveillance and counterintelligence, we were able to find this dude who quite literally was responsible for not planning out the attack, but looking at the plans and looking at the surveillance cameras to make sure what is and what isn't a no-go zone, okay? There's a concept known where if you help someone rob a store, you aren't just as culpable, you're arguably more culpable because not only have you taken participation in the robbery, but you were a part of the organization, which makes you a traitor on another level, and that's why we treat them a little bit harsher than we do the actual attackers and robbers. Now it seems that under a new administration, things are starting to get done at a fantastic rate. People working with Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, and working with other intelligence organizations across the globe are now looking into these issues that happened all the way back in 2021 when we started withdrawing troops to begin with. Man, it's almost as if the Biden administration was fundamentally incompetent, ran by a man who was literally at that point a dementia patient. I think by that point he had already fallen off his bicycle out when he was bicycling in New Jersey. I think that was quite literally the moment that we knew that this dude was a walking, talking vegetable. And now we have a president and a team in place that is streamlined to go after terrorists, that trusts people to actually do their jobs, and doesn't have a micromanaging president that needs to be getting his fingers in everywhere, and instead he's relying on the people around him. This is how you delegate power. This is how you deal with our problems. This is also how you help our allies. So, Gorka is doing a fantastic job here, and of course, he lets Jake Tapper have it. Tapper did not know what hit him for a little while. It took him a moment to fully recalibrate, so bless his heart, he was trying his best, but when you go up against someone with that good of a British accent, you better be careful and not miss. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one, and until then, y'all have a good one.